claim full depreciation, and by implementing the ITWV strategy, the outcome per week is vastly different in your favour. So you are still on the same $2,000 per week gross income, but with a new tax rate following your ITWV, you now receive $1,539 in your net take-home pay, and the remaining $461 is split between super and the ATO, leaving you with an extra $88 per week in your pocket. Now, we don't go and spend that extra $88 per week. We now use that intelligently, assisting to pay down your bad debt or non-deductible debt, that being your home mortgage. So what does it look like now when we add a live property deal into the fold? We have a dual income property for this example, and I'll explain what they are later when we talk about our property selection and criteria. Purchase price including the purchase costs, which are stamp duty and legals, $465,000. We have rent of $620 and our extra $88 from our weekly tax rebate from the ITWV, so a total of $708 per week income. There's $454 for bank interest and other costs like rates, water, property management, etc. of about $151 per week, so a total of $605 per week outgoings, leaving you now with a positive cash flow of $103 per week. Have a look when you now compare the difference not owning a property and the outcome with our well-selected investment property. The outcome will hopefully flick the $22,698 from the income per week. New tax of $29,571 after our rebate from the ITWV gives us a take-home pay of $90,429. We have rent of $32,240, so we now have a new payment their way, $154 per week. The outcome is $103 per week cash flow positive. Hopefully you can now start to see what I was referring to earlier by using combinations. The result is fairly conclusive. If you're earning money and paying tax, that means everyone on this webinar, you may want to look into this a little further. Look, at the end of the day, it's entirely up to you, but if I had to choose between option 1 and pay full tax, or option 2, swapping my income tax for high growth passive cash flow assets, it's a no-brainer. Let's move on. Now, this is the big question I've heard so many times, and the one that makes people think the wealthy must have a different set of rules to get away with paying very low amounts of tax. And that's how to minimize your tax legally. It's actually very simple and legal. In fact, the government actually reward you for playing their game their way. They designed it, so why not play with their rules? Okay, so you're on $120,000 per annum. The first $20,000, no tax applies. It's what they call the tax-free threshold. The puzzle is, how do we minimize the tax on the next $100,000? Now, I want to be crystal clear. This is just for illustrative purposes only, and you need to seek independent advice and speak with your accountant. But for this exercise, let's refer back to our depreciation schedule with a claimable $18,000 of depreciation. The simple equation is to work out how many times 18,000 goes into 100,000, and the answer is 5.5 times. So in a perfect world, if you owned 5.5 properties that had $18,000 annual claimable depreciation each, you would effectively be paying zero tax. Now, I'm not suggesting everyone can go out and buy 5 or 6 properties today, but what I'm highlighting is how it works so you can decide to put your mind to it and go after building your property portfolio that can potentially assist with legal tax minimization. And now back to the client who previously had a marginal tax rate of 29%. Now they have a new tax rate of 0%. So it can actually happen if you use the right structures and implement the correct strategies we've covered so far. And yes, we can help you with all of this with our team of experts, and I'll explain how that works a little later. Now, can any of you relate to this poor little guy struggling to move freely through life, burdened with the amount of debt he's carrying? You need to know how to get out of bad debt, given there is only so much money in the household budget, so we need to understand how to beat the bank at their own game. And it's called rapid mortgage reduction. And no, you don't need to get a second job or dramatically change your lifestyle. You just need to know how to set up your loan structures correctly. So let's take a look at how this is done. This is where the ultimate combination now plays its hand in the overall strategy of what is the positive property formula. First and foremost, we need to get rid of your home mortgage in the shortest time possible. It's not rocket science and anyone can do it. We can often do this in 5, 6, 7 or 10 years, and also by 2, 3, traditional old-fashioned way, or the bank-preferred way of paying your house off, is really a redundant concept. As educated property investors, we want to increase our financial effectiveness to make sure we pay our home loan off as quickly as possible because it's bad debt. We can also get double benefits and compound our results if we're smart about it. So using this old-fashioned way of paying the principal and interest to paying off your principal place of residence can take up to 30 years, which is just the way that the bank wants it. But it's way too long. Think about it. Banks only make money when they have their money geared or loaned out to you, the investor. So here's an example of a very easy to implement strategy. Instead of paying principal and interest, we pay interest only. Your payment to the bank would go from $1,750 down to about $1,250 a month. So you would end up with $500 extra in your pocket each month. Now I can hear you saying, hey, hang on, we're meant to be paying our house off. Yes, but this is how it works. Instead of taking that $300 and using it, or simply spending it, you use that money to pay down your loan balance. And this is often our redraw account, but you set up the correct loan structure, which allows you to put extra money in your offset account, reducing the amount of your loan on which you pay interest. But you can still access that money at any time. So you always pay your $1,750 into your home loan, but $1,250 of that goes towards the interest component, and now you've got an extra $500 a month sitting in your offset account. You might think that $500 isn't going to make much difference, but the fact is that making that adjustment month after month builds up into a huge resource. One of the world's most famous guys said that the eighth wonder of the world is compounding interest. Any guesses? Albert Einstein. The compounding effect with this structure is the financial magic that we want to have working for us. So we've made a start just by rearranging our financial structure, but there's more we can do to supercharge the process, so we're speeding up this compounding effect. Firstly, we can put more money into our offset account, so 100% of your monthly or weekly salary goes into your offset account. Our example here is assuming a monthly salary of $8,300. Now, because your home loan interest is calculated daily, every cent in your offset account means paying less and less interest. You're probably thinking, well, hang on, if my wages are going into my offset account, how am I going to live? And that's a valid question. So the strategy is you get a credit card that gives you up to 55 days interest-free. You use this for the week-to-week expenses like food, fuel, electricity bills, movies, and the like. And then, at the end of the 55-day interest-free period, you pay off the outstanding balance on the credit card from the offset account and bring the credit card balance back to zero. If you've got an extra, let's say $5,000 to $7,000 sitting in your offset account, that's $5,000 to $7,000 a month off your home loan that you're not having to pay interest on. If you look at this example, you could potentially pay your home loan off in 7.4 years, saving you 17.6 years just by implementing this simple but highly effective strategy. The strategy applies to any loan amount, but the time frames are going to be a little bit different. The idea here is just to show you how expert advice and specific financial structures can have a huge effect on the interest you pay and the time it takes to beat the banks at their own game. And if we take this principle and the combinations we spoke of earlier, you get the double and triple benefit. We can actually buy an investment property using some of the increased equity in our principal place of residence and from the savings we've made. So using combinations, we can swap our income tax for high growth cash flow passive assets, which speeds up the entire process to pay off your home loan far sooner. Let me explain. So not only do we have our income going into the offset account, we now also take the rental income from the investment and add that into our offset account and pay even less interest on our outstanding home loan. Remember the extra weekly tax rebate we also received from doing our ITWV. Now also add that to our offset or redraw account. We are making enormous savings on our home loan interest payments. So not only are we paying off our home loan earlier, but we also can use this money to buy investment properties along the way. And this process can be duplicated. So as you increase your property portfolio, the benefits are magnified. The compounding process from the offset accounts works very, very well.